where women just really talk about friendship, talk about intentionality, talk about leadership, and talk about in a space where it's safe, where they feel like they have the opportunity to be themselves. They feel like they're not competing. I know that the narrative often is that women compete against each other, but the real ones know that, like the female friendships, it is the flex. It is a safe space. It is the place to be. I know some incredible, phenomenal women, as witnessed by the women on this panel, that when I ask, they just say yes without knowing what we're doing. It's never going to be hiking, so they're good. But I just really wanted to continue to have this conversation. I think over the past couple of years and the past couple of months, there's just been a lot of cruel rhetoric, like just all over. And I've had conversation with some women who have been hurt by other friendships and just been hurt by being in spaces where they felt unwelcome and unwanted. And I think that we have to have conversations, right? We have to talk about things like that. We have to talk about female friendship. We have to talk about what does leadership look like, because I think oftentimes folks wear the leadership badge, or they get the leadership badge without truly understanding what it takes to be a leader. And I think intentionality is important, right? Because you can create the life that you want, but you have to be intentional about it. So I was very excited when I reached out to these three lovely young ladies, and they said yes. And so here we are. They're no strangers to you, but I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. In no particular order. I did do it alphabetical because it was just easier. So we had Giselle, Jennifer, and Monica. And so we're just going to, have Miss Jennifer start out introducing herself. What is that she does? And then we'll have Giselle, and then Monica, and then we'll go ahead and go into the questions.
Okay, so hi everyone, thanks for having me. I'm Jennifer Herring, Executive Director of Worcester Education Collaborative.
Very nice. My name is Giselle Vivero Flores, and I am the Chief External Affairs Officer at WCAC and the founder of the People Praxis.
Great. My name is Monica Dwani. I am the owner of New Rise Consulting, and I do a little bit of everything, but I like to say I'm an advocate.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, that's it. All right. Okay, I love it. Thank you. Well, thank you all for saying yes. All right. Yes. So I'm going to start with the very first questions, because we're going to have an opportunity for some audience questions. So please, we do have an audience right now. So if you want to prepare your questions in advance, so we can certainly, that's the freestyle section. Like you show your inner Jay-Z, when you start to rap, right? But my first question, for Giselle, how do you define a friendship? And what key qualities do you believe are essential for a strong friendship?
Wow. Well, since I have the first question, friendship, I guess I would define friendship as a partnership that often takes a very platonic, like marriage situation, where not always is it 50-50 you're showing up, but sometimes you carry the load of your friend, your best friend, or a friend. And sometimes they carry the load for you, but you consistently show up for one another. And I think that some of the qualities that makes a friend a really good friend is someone who never really steers you away from your goals, so they don't shrink you. Another quality, I think, is just having a large sense of empathy and allowing you space to be yourself, right? So if you're, quirky or loud or always laughing or telling jokes, or the opposite, somber, miserable, whatever, they allow you to be that person no matter what, without judgment. And I think that's what makes a really great friend.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Monica, same question. How do you define a friendship?
We should have read the one question per person.
Oh no, honey, I get to play.
I think for me, friendship is having the security that you can count on someone, even if you're not 100% present all the time. Just knowing that they are there. And for me, besides what Giselle said, one of the biggest qualities is humility. I think you need to be able to accept when you're wrong, or accept when the other person's right, and having the humbleness to have raw conversations without, ego. And I think that's the most important trait for me.
Okay. All right. Thank
Jennifer?
you. Jennifer, same question.
I think so. A couple things. One of the things I appreciate about my closest friends is that there's no obligation to talk all day, constantly, check in, make it time to make a coffee date. Like there are times when that can add more stress to the relationship than necessary.
Yeah.
But then if I or they call me or text and like something's wrong or they want to celebrate something, we can pick up right where we left off without feeling like we have to name that we haven't talked in a while. That's something that I value. And then the second thing for me is, and I actually was sharing this with someone recently, one of my biggest pet peeves when I am being vulnerable with a friend is if I share something that's very close to my heart, and instead of either meeting me with that same energy or not making me feel bad about the circumstance that I'm venting about, it's like, ooh, that's a tough one. It's like, no, like, haven't you been in a similar situation? Like, I can't be the only one.
Yeah.
And so those are two big things for me, is like not making me feel small, especially for me, it often takes a lot out of me to be vulnerable and to share something personal. And when I do, to be made to feel even smaller, is something that I can't do in friendship.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, ladies. I mean, you guys had really great points. Like, one of the things I do want to prolong a little was at the point where you talked about not making something make you feel guilty, like if you don't have the time, because as adults and fully living adults, it's hard sometimes to set a time aside. I mean, I've been trying to coordinate a friendship thing with some friends since like December.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's 8 women, and
Yeah,
it is like calculus with trigonometry, with geometry. Like, it's just really, really hard. But like, nobody says, like, you never have time or things like that. And then we make a plan and a kid gets sick, or a husband has a stroke, or all right, we're not there yet. It's too early. It's too soon. It's too soon. It's too soon to joke. But if you know, you know.
I don't know. I just found out today.
I think everyone just found out today, Jennifer.
So, and then not making you feel guilty of the fact that, like, life does happen, and, as much as we would like to just, get together and have a lovely meal, like, we don't have that opportunity. So, thank you, for sharing that. All right, Monica, I'm going to start with you. Can you talk about a friendship that has had a significant impact on your life, whether it's personally or professionally?
I have a few of those.
Okay.
I've always have a very hard time making girlfriends. I've always been a boy girl.
Okay.
Most of my life. But from a few years now, I've made really good friendships with amazing women. I don't know how to pick one, but I will talk about my best friend since we are 4 years old.
Wow.
We live in separate states. We grew up in Puerto Rico. She now lives in Texas. I am here. And we lost touch for a little bit. Just because I said something that I wasn't aware that she that hurt her. And we kind of stopped talking, but for me it was very normal. We were like, well, we talk for a month, and then it's like 6 more months and we don't talk, and I don't remember what it was. I think it was when I got sick a few months ago, and I reached out to her, and she was like, I'm very pissed at you. And I was like, oh, why? And something I've always appreciated about her is that no matter what, she will always tell me the truth, how she feels, or if I said something uncomfortable that made her feel uncomfortable without me noticing. We have very different lifestyles. And I think, something that we need to take into consideration with especially old friendships that we grew up with is that we've changed with time. So the same person you became friends with is not the same person that it's today, right? And you have to keep into consideration that when you're growing older together, there might be things that in pathways that you have to consider how they affect the other person. And I never did that for her. But she was kind enough, and that's something that that has never changed for her, is her candor. So candor is something that I really admire from her, and I think that's what always kept us real, because she can do that, and I'm learning how to do that. So, long story short, I think that friendship and her candor is one that I appreciate the most in my life.
Okay. Oh, no, I mean, I think that's important, right, for our friends to be honest with us, because I think you are correct. We grow and we evolve and we become different people, and you said something unintentionally harming her, not realizing that. And I think, you know, it takes bravery to say, like, hey, you really hurt me. And to say when you were sick. Take even more bravery.
Exactly. Didn't sugarcoat it at all.
Like,
She's like, I don't give two damns about how you feel.
Wow.
This is about me right now. And I was like, okay, I'll hear you out.
Yeah. Yes, no. But I think we also have to be big about it, because it's like, you know, to say, like, hey, I hurt you, it was unintentional, like, and taking ownership and taking accountability.
100%.
Like in friendships, like, we have to learn how to apologize, right? Like, I made a mistake, I wronged you. If it's a relationship that you value and it's a relationship that you want to keep, you have to be okay with having that conversation.
Yeah, I think candor, it's something that we really have to learn, because you don't have to be mean about it.
No.
And it's never gonna be the right moment to like. So I always appreciate, because she's never the right moment, but candor is always there. So, you know, I don't know. I think, you know, our friendship will last forever, just because, you know, because of that.
All right, wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Ms. Jennifer, I haven't started with you yet, so I'll start with you. In what ways do you think friendship has impacted or was influenced who you are?
I think that it has influenced me negatively and positively. Because there are obviously friends come and go, right? I think the friendships that ended negatively have shaped who I am and made me more self-aware. And then, of course, my positive friendships have helped me to see who I am and not just my titles and my labels, if that makes sense. And that goes to the first question you asked about, like, what I value about friendship. It's who are the people that help draw the best parts out of you. Because speaking for myself as a woman, I find that I am playing multiple roles. Like, I'm playing the role of wife, mother, sister, daughter, right? And so there are very few spaces in my life where I can be myself without worrying about how me being myself impacts a relationship, right? And the family. And so I really look to friends who, not just people that I can have fun with, but also people who can draw the best out of me and help me show up as who I really am or who I want to be, but maybe am hesitant in other areas of my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you ever find that, you know, you, based on a friendship, that you've changed? Like, sometimes, you know, I have a lot of introverted friends, or I started with a lot of introverted friends. And
The one's laughing right now.
And, you know, like, they're like, I'm really shy. I was like, oh. And then, like, towards the end, they're not shy. So, like, do you ever find that, like, friendships, like, impacts who you are, and, like, there's certain parts of your personality, like, and I will not go high inches out, changes based on your friendship?
Yeah, definitely. I always say, and this is just my opinion, I always say that your friends never really change you. They just bring out who you really are.
Okay.
You know?
All right. It was there all along.
Yeah, it was there all
I
along.
love it.
My sister and I are like besties, and she's my younger sister. She's the youngest out of the three of us. And anytime I do or say something that she feels like that's the part of you, like, not to let, that's like Jenny in the 90s. So if you ever like, that's when I was at my like, I was young, carefree, like everything, you know, that's like, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get back to that, like, you know? And so people to remind you like, no, you're not changing. You just kind of buried who you are under being like all of these other things for everyone else, you know?
All right.
So.
I love that. All
Yeah.
right.
Very nice.
Well, Giselle, I'm going to start with you, and just to give you guys a heads up, I'm going to ask this questions of all three of you guys. I know you kind of touched on it a little bit when you talked, you know, you answered your other question, but I really think this question in particular is very important. So, how do you navigate conflicts within friendships?
Trying to find very diplomatic words for this. So a few things. I think that if we have conflicts within our friendship, we're already in a space of safety. We're friends, right? And so when there is conflict, I often find that I don't have a lot of conflict with my friends, my close ones. So I've been grateful for that. Even Jennifer and I, we never have a conflict. We're always on the same page, which is great. But I think that when we do, if there is something that arises, and often it could be a misunderstanding, more so than conflict, I think that the space of safety has been created to the point that we can just be vocal about it. And to your point about your friend, just saying, hey, that wasn't nice what you said, or, you know, like that was taken in the wrong context, or did you mean X, Y, Z? I think that when you have a good friend, they should take that into consideration and say, oh, I wasn't aware, right? Opposed to being combative or defensive. And so I think being honest in all spaces, I usually try to navigate in that format. And so sometimes, whether we're friends or not, you might get a little honest from me. And you can take it, do what you want with that. But within friendship, we're able to move forward. And I think that oftentimes we can see when there is a little bit of conflict or misunderstanding and people are avoidant, conflict avoidant, that's a sign that, one, they need a little bit of self-work. And then two, they really weren't your friend. Because someone doesn't just abandon you because of a misunderstanding or a conflict or anything like that. And so I've been grateful for the ones that I have, that I've had them for a long time. Shout out to Jennifer. But yeah, I think that's how we have to navigate with candor. You have to be honest.
No, absolutely. So I'll tell you something that you know this. I met you and Jennifer a few years ago, and I've always been inspired by your guys' friendship. I told you, like, so every time I'm planning something and I'm talking about friendship, and I really, really think about some of the friendship that exemplify, like, fantastic female friendship, like you and Jennifer are always top of mind for me. And the very first panel that I had, you guys were, I think you were like the MC, and Jennifer like the first.
She was the second MC in the crowd.
Like,
yeah, I remember.
Yes, she was. You know, like, so I'm like, no, I have to have them, because your friendship was truly one of the inspiration behind, like, I have to have this out. I have to show positive, you know, things of female friendship. I mean, I honestly believe, like, you guys would kill and bury a body and not share it. Like, I do.
You wouldn't even know.
I wouldn't even like, that's how deep I think it is with y'all. So
yeah, but I think that's because of there's this, like, and I think that this speaks to also, like, and this is why I compare a friendship to a marriage.
Yeah.
There's this, like, really deep level of, like, moral compass that exists between Jennifer and I. And so we steer with that, right? So we can laugh about some things, but we know exactly what's happening. We're very self-aware of how we're navigating rooms. She's experienced things that I think are horrific. And then there's things I've experienced that are also not well, but we've been able to navigate it together. And sometimes it's just a text of, like, I saw that. And that's all we need is, like, oh, okay, it wasn't just me. I'm not insane, right? So I think we provide a nice, like, sounding board for each other. And we're authentic with each other. We're very authentic with each other. So I think that's part of why we can navigate. It's, I mean, it wouldn't be possible to do that in a marriage with you and Paul if you weren't authentic with each other and had a very clear moral compass of where you stood and your stances. And I don't think it's any different for a friendship.
No, I think like a friendship is like a marriage, because like it's like that's your person, like a true friendship. That's your person. Like you share intimacy. They've seen all parts of you, you know, the good, the bad, and the in between, and you know, they could check you without, you know, making you feel small, right? They could like, all right, you're out of pocket, but
Or
I
not
love
check
you.
you and make
Like-
sure they validate the
Like,
craziness.
Absolutely.
And then I tell you, it's not you, it's everyone else.
Yeah, that's true too.
We're gonna talk after this. All right. So, continuing in that same vein, Jennifer, I wanted to ask you this question. So, do you recommend or have you found any strategies that are important in using to maintain healthy friendships?
Strategies to maintain healthy friendships. Okay, so if we're comparing female friendships to marriage, I don't fall in love too fast.
Oh.
Because I think that sometimes when we meet people, we're like have a few things in common, and then you think because you have things in common, you're going to be besties.
Yeah.
And in my experience, that's been dangerous because then you get too comfortable, too familiar, too quick,
Yeah.
and then you start to realize you're not aligned, but you kind of like you just fell in love too quick, and then it becomes harder to pull away. So for me, I'm constantly minding my own boundaries and making sure that I'm able to
Wow.
give myself time to assess a person's values before I get too close. Because as I said earlier, I've always been kind of, and this can be just because of my own friendship histories. I'm very cautious, especially now in this part of my life. Like if I'm going to make new friends or if I have friends, it's valuable to me because, as I said, I wear a lot of hats in life, and so if I have a friend that I have to maintain, then I don't have time for that.
Wow.
But if I have a friend that's gonna draw the best out of me, be vulnerable, and be supportive, then it's worth taking the time to invest. But I think it's something that needs to be nurtured and not something that you just dive in head first just because you go to the same nail shop or whatever.
Noted. All right, thank you. And then just the final question, like in this vein, and wanted to wrap this part up, but I think it's important that we talk about. So, do you know, or how do you think you would heal from a toxic friendship? What are some of the strategies? Because there is a lot of women that are hurt and recovering from a toxic friendship, and they exist.
You're looking at me.
I'm
Why don't you ask her? I already went.
Oh, Lord. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. A lot of hiking.
a lot of
She said no thanks.
I gotta walk in the mountains. No, I said hiking, not drinking. No, I think overall, it's what was mentioned here earlier. It's taking two buckets, right? What served me and what didn't serve me, and trying not to repeat that same pattern. More importantly, not utilizing that bad experience to judge the ones that you already have.
Yeah.
Because we carry that baggage with us anywhere we go. You know, it's like, since we have made so many references into marriage here, it's like getting a divorce, finding a boyfriend, and judging your new boyfriend by the things that your ex-husband did. Like, you can't do that, right? It's the same premise. So I think overall it's just understanding what are you willing or not willing to accept from someone. And you gotta do the work yourself. You can't expect others to fill that hole or, you know, come and take away that trauma that person caused you. You have to come to terms with yourself that, okay, it happened. Now, what am I gonna do to make sure that I don't experience that with others, and I'm gonna put boundaries, and I'm gonna talk about it with my friends, and what am I going to do, right? Like, how am I gonna get this out of my chest without hurting or judging anyone else? And overall, just move on. Like, people is people. People is never gonna change, right? But you can change. You can change how you receive, how you give, how you process. So at the end of the day, it's your heart.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And I know that the men listening is like, like you broke up with him, now you're judging me and painting with
Shout out to the husbands in the room.
And that is a topic for a different panel that we will address at a later day. All right, the men that get judged with the same brush. All right, but we're gonna continue in this vein. And Jennifer, you mentioned it a couple of times, and so the next question I'm gonna ask, we're gonna talk about vulnerability. And so I was born and raised in Jamaica. Like, you don't cry. That was just something like I truly believed that like crying was a sign of weakness. And that's just how I was raised, plus being a black woman, the strong black woman trope, right? So it wasn't easy for me to be vulnerable. And then, I met my best friend who's Brazilian and like would cry at the drop of a hat. And I was like, dude, like, calm down. And, she did a lot of work with me. I'm not going to lie. Because to get me to, like, now I cry, like, all the time. And I'm like, I'm good. But it was just like, for me, being vulnerable was just like, God, no. And I found that in order for me to, like, deepen my friendships and my relationship, it's okay for them to see me at my lowest and my weakness. And I think oftentimes and sometimes we don't want people to see us at our lowest. But if they see us at our lowest and they love us through that, right? It makes you stronger. And like that took a really long time for me to learn. And it's still hard for me to do sometimes to be vulnerable. So I'm going to ask you, Giselle.
I thought this was a Jennifer question.
I think you should have taken my question.
Do you find it easy to be vulnerable in your friendships?
In friendships, yeah, I think that I would say it's easy because, again, I point to the piece in where we've created that safety net. It's already been organically established. So when we're talking and we're being ourselves and we're being our authentic selves, I think that's part of being vulnerable. You're already not masking. You're already not pretending to be someone else. And that's part of vulnerability. So I think that it is safe. It's easier when you're in a friendship. Now, if you put me in a room with, unknown people, it is incredibly difficult for me to be vulnerable or be open, and I'm usually like in the corner of the room just observing. But yes, but within a friendship, I think you can't be friends without being vulnerable, right?
No, I mean, you could, but yeah.
Not good friends, at least.
Agree to
Not good
disagree.
friends.
Apparently, now I do believe it's important to be vulnerable. I like for people to see all your parts, and I'm still working on it. But it's easier, it's gotten easier the older I've gotten. But,
Yeah.
I think, and I think it's the friends that I've had, they make it easy. They provide a safe space. And like, cause I've always felt like I need to be that safe space, not realizing that I also needed a safe space. So like, I needed to solve it. So that's a personal thing that
You got work to do, girl.
that I'm working on. I'm still working on it because I like when people are safe. So, but
Yeah, and it's co-created,
Yeah.
right? This right now is a safe space. We all
Yes.
know each other. We're familiar,
Yeah.
and whether we're super vulnerable with each other or not, this is a space in where we can talk freely and not be judged. And so you have to co-create that. You
Yeah.
can't create safety or psychological safety on your own. It has to be a collaboration with the
Yeah.
folks that are involved.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all so much, for answering those questions. So those questions were more geared toward the friendship part. So I want to move a little bit more into the intentionality part. And, I think it's a word that we use a lot, and I think it's a buzzword now. And I think everybody does use intentionality. I think it was like a new
Agreed.
word. It's like, yeah, I know, a big word. And now it's like everybody uses like, I'm intentional, and like, but truly, what does it really mean? And I think that it's important. So I'll start with you, Jennifer. Why is intentionality important in both your personal and your professional relationships?
Because intentionality helps to strengthen relationships, and it's I think in a world where culturally and even just in the U.S. So my family's from Haiti, and so culturally, and I was raised in church too. So there's like a communal culture there, in my upbringing, but then when I go into like friendships outside of church, and professional settings, it becomes very individualistic. And so, yeah, I think it kind of helps to soften that individualistic culture, and it strengthens those interpersonal relationships.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Monica, how do you incorporate intentionality in your daily life?
Oh Lord. I like to think that I've always been very intentional, more in my professional life than in my personal life. My personal life, I think right now, I am intentionally, right, the buzzword, I am intentionally rebuilding, right, because I need to take care of more of myself and those that I love the most. Now, on the professional setting, I've always incorporated intentionality into everything I do, not just for my benefit, but for the benefit of everyone around me. And I had to do that because I am in an industry that is male dominated. So I've always need to have a plan, right? And I always needed to be intentional about if I take this step, why, right? So for me, intentionality is synonym of why. Why am I doing this? What is the intention of it, and what is going to be the result that I kind of expecting from it, right? So I think professionally, I've always walked with intentionality, and I've gotten where I am because of that. How do I incorporate it on my daily life right now? There is one thing that I'm very intentional about right now, and it's ensuring that my faith is not shaken. So everything I do, I intentionally do it, making others aware that that's my purpose right now, and that's where I am. So I think right now, how I incorporate oh my God. Okay, I'm thinking in Spanish.
Say it.
Intentionality. There we go. It reset my brain.
Say it.
Is letting others know what am I focused on. I intentionally tell others, this is my focus right now, and if you want to walk with me on that journey, you're welcome. If not, I don't think this is our time. And if you're willing to wait for me later, then that's fine, right? But I think that's how I am incorporating intentionality in my life at this stage.
At this stage. All right, thank you so much. All right, and Giselle.
Yes.
What does intentionality mean to you? And a follow-up question.
Not like that is a big question.
All right.
Go ahead. What's the follow-up?
You want it? Do you want
You
the
want me to
follow-up?
answer the first one first?
Yeah, answer the first and then I'll give you the second part.
Okay, what was the first one?
What does intentionality mean to you?
Intentionality to me means providing something for others without looking for reciprocation. So when we are intentional in showing up in spaces, right? We're all here together. This is we made the time to be here. Most of this is to support you and your brand and our community of women. This has very little to do with any of us sitting up here at all, right? And so when we take time to provide for others, we are providing our intentionality. And that's, for me, that's my definition.
Okay. All right. Tell me about a time that you had to say, I'm going to have to be, you wanted something, right? You had a goal. You're like, I'm going to have to be very intentional about getting this because you were getting distracted.
Oh, because I was getting distracted.
And it's not, so distraction is not often something that you put in your way, but oftentimes things come in our way that are distracted that we can't help. But you're like, I don't care what comes my way. This is going to happen. Like, I was going to go on vacation to a place next week and it flooded out. So how am I going to fix that?
Wow.
I've been on Expedia all week looking for places. Everything is flooding.
Yeah, very intentional about taking that vacation.
Agreed.
Finding that vacation spot. So
That's a really good question. I think that I have always moved with the sense of trying to provide for others. And so when it comes to that, I think that I have always been able to look at what the outcome is. What is the purpose of all of this? And I've always been able to find a way to provide some sort of purpose for myself, for others, and I think that that's how I've been able to be intentional. On a personal level, I think recently I have been incredibly intentional over the last year, just moving from employment to a different employer, from previous employer to a different employer, and I think that I have been intentional in the sense of telling myself, these are the things that I need to do in order to get there. And that was more of a planning thing, right? So I've been intentional with my time and the steps that I've taken. And through that, I've been able to accomplish my master's. I've been able to find new employment. I've been looking for a work-life balance. I received that. And so I think some of that, it's been part of a plan, per se. So I've been intentional with a plan. But to be honest with you, what's carried me through that is being able to provide for other people till this very moment. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to have the network I have, or be able to move the way I can move so easily, well, without as much stress as I think it can be. And so it goes both ways, I guess. Within myself, there's like a plan. I'm strategic with it. With others, it's just about showing up for them.
I love that. I think, I'm not sure who had this quote, but it says, if your dream only includes you, your dream isn't big enough.
Correct.
So I love that. I don't know who y'all could look it up. I don't know who had it. But you really think about it, because, our dreams, right? I think when you think about being this place for someone, a resource for someone and for others, or making others' lives better, like your life, I think automatically gets better. And I think you mentioned it earlier about the individualistic society sometimes, like it's me, and yes, I'm great and all of this. And yes, I think it's good to celebrate yourself, but I think, your work, the core of who you are, should be about elevating others. And I think within that, you become blessed.
100%. I think that's not just with ourselves, but I think that's the same narrative we should carry through our systems, whether it's our political landscape, it's our education system, it's any policies that we have against minorities or people that are disenfranchised. When we uplift other folks, everyone gets uplifted.
Absolutely.
So if we can just take ourselves and our greed and all of the things that we struggle with out of the equation, I think we all do well.
Okay, I agree. Rising tide floats all boats.
Let's do it.
I love it. All right, thank you. I'm on a boat kick lately.
It's summer.
It's summer. Maybe that's why. All right, thank you so
She
much.
won't go hiking with me, but I won't go on a boat with her.
I'm working on it.
No thanks.
Carla thought she will never do a boat either, but
Yeah.
we changed that.
Look at her face.
Listen, we just talked that friends influence friends, brings
That's
it out
peer
of it.
pressure.
So it's
Let's be clear.
that's what it's called. Okay, got it. All right, and Jennifer, how do you encourage intentionality to those that are closest to you?
I would like to think that I provide perspective. Like a lot of the questions that were asked, I was thinking that the other side to the issue can sometimes be that if we feel like we're experiencing a toxic friendship, for example, what is that toxic friend going through? Like, what is that person dealing with? And so I like to try to provide perspective to say, maybe this is just a season or a blip in that person's life. Have you considered asking this question? Have you considered this might be because of, XYZ situation they're dealing with? So providing perspective so that we're not jumping to conclusions, because I think with friendships, it's very easy to see it as very kind of linear and black and white. Either the person is making me happy or they're not. Either they're a good friend or they're not. And there's a lot of gray in friendship. And so being able to remind each other that, a good friend can have a bad day and can have behavior that is not ideal. And so that doesn't necessarily mean you throw the friendship away. And so how do you be intentional about reconnecting with that friend and helping support them through that?
Absolutely. It's about showing grace.
Yeah.
Because we don't all have lovely days. Like there are times that we are truly going through a tough time, right? And like you said something unintentionally hurting someone, but right, instead of like assuming that they meant to harm you,
Yeah.
be honest and it's like, hey, that really hurt me, and being willing to have that conversation,
Yeah.
right?
But if they continue,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But
There's
at
the
least
door. if they continue, right? Like I think
right,
that
if it's a
sometimes
pattern, that's different. But
Right.
if somebody has
Yes.
a bad,
Yes.
because
moment,
I think
that's
that's 100%. You gotta detach the
Absolutely.
behavior from the person.
Mm-hmm.
But if that behavior persists and you have been more than gracious about
Absolutely.
having candor and being appropriate about it, and that person doesn't change,
Then it's
Yeah,
it's a
it's time to
problem,
go.
and then it's okay. I mean, I've ended friendship. It wasn't easy, you know, because I think, you know, when you end a friendship, like you mourn what was. But if you, so I don't do jealous friends. Like I think it's crazy and it's weird. Like it's just, I just don't get it. And like if the energy is off for me, like I'm okay. I'm like I will ask like, yo, what's up? And then I'm okay like walking away because. And I was on another panel, like when we did the season panel, and I talked about like my non-negotiable is like I don't want to wonder where I stand. Like, are we friends? Are they talking about me?
yeah.
Like, I don't have time for that. Like, I'm grown and I have bills. Like, I can't. I
Too
just.
many
Well, I
bills.
think if you ever have to ask yourself that question, then it should have
It's
never
not,
happened.
But the thing, so, but again, it's just like I think sometimes we're like people internalize it, like, oh, is it me, or you know, it's like I don't know. So I think for me, I'm always open to like, let's have the conversation, and I'm very honest. And it's just like, if like I'm gonna cheer for my friend winning whatever they do, and if you have a friend that doesn't cheer for you when you win, or is constantly talking about others, I think those are places like friendship that like you start to examine them. Like, okay,
You just send them a meme. Retreat, retreat.
Yeah.
That's it.
100%.
I love that. I have that saved. I can send it to everybody.
like retreat. All right, so
retreat, retreat.
I love that. So I'm going to shout out our executive producer, Paul Anderson, who helps with all production. He did send me a text. He said the quote was from Ava DuVernay, and it says, "If your dream only includes you, it's too small." So
Nice.
Very nice.
I'm just
Ciao,
saying,
Paul.
like,
Thanks,
always
Paul.
looking out. You got a friend in me. Okay, so all right, so I want to wrap up this section. The final question is, and I'll start with you, Monica.
Oh,
Yes, I know. All right.
you know how I love to go first.
I know you do. That's why I do it. All right. What advice would you give to someone who is struggling to be more intentional in their relationships?
I think the first thing that we need to do is self-assess. We always think that due to the other person we cannot be intentional, or due to the situation we cannot be intentional, but at the end of the day, it's your decision. You decided to have that friendship, you decided to be there, you drove yourself there, so I think being intentional with yourself first to ensure that honesty stays within, I think is the most difficult task. Because if you don't do that, then how can you expect anything else from others? So for me, it will be that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And you're all gonna get it, Giselle. What
you were
advice
saying.
would you give to someone struggling to be more intentional in their relationships?
I 100% agree with Monica that you have to have self-awareness. Self-awareness allows you to, excuse me, self-awareness allows you to, again, take the behavior of someone else and separate it from the person, but also allows you to have empathy, have vision, have clarity on what it is that's happening here, right? When we're not self-aware, we ourselves are part of the problem. And to your point, we pin it on someone else because we don't really understand what's happening either. So defense mechanism kicks in. We're like, oh, it's you. It's always them. It's never me. And so self-awareness is key. I 100% agree.
All right, awesome, thank you. And final question in the intentionality section.
I agree with everything that's been said, and I would say, treat your friends the way you would want to be treated when it comes to being intentional. Do you remember birthdays? Do you remember, you know, I've had an unfortunate loss recently. So, like, do you remember the date of that loss? You know, like things like that, because I think that, as Giselle said, sometimes we can be kind of so self-absorbed in how our friendships are impacting me. But how are you being a friend to other people, and do people experience in you what you claim that you want or that you need more of or that you're not getting in your friendships?
You gotta put them on the calendar.
In regards to date, as I have gotten older, being from the late 1900s, everything's in my phone. Everything's in my phone.
The thing is, even if you get the reminder,
I do.
We all get those reminders, but sometimes, like, I'll use an example of that. I have a friend in my church who, even when I'm trying to block, kind of trying to ignore and like push down certain things, she will remember the most important anniversaries. So if it's like my birthday,
beautiful.
If it's like the lost date, if it's like the, and it's like, oh my gosh, like she remembered, and those are things, I don't put that on Facebook. I don't, but she somehow she knew it, wrote it down once and never forgets.
Never forgot.
So, that's the intentionality.
I love that. All right, thank you all so much. So we are coming to the final section because I really wanted to talk a little bit about leadership. And I think, as I had mentioned earlier, I think oftentimes the word leadership is bandied around. I remember the first job I received, walked into a retail store, I had no experience, and I was just like, hire me as a manager and I'll be great. And they did. And I was a leader. And I'm going to be very honest, I had no idea what I was doing, right? But I was a leader, and I learned on the job, and I made a lot of mistakes. So I think, I wish when you are told that you're a leader, like, there are some things that you were taught. I mean, obviously you're going to have to be a leader at your job and things like that in certain way that you do it. But I think being a leader in life is so different, right? In terms of, I think there's certain innate qualities you're born with, but I think when people say you're a leader, like, do you think of others? Do you place the need of others ahead? Do you connect people to resources and things like that? And leadership for me is more about the intentionality versus about the titles. I've met some people with some amazing titles and very, very little leadership skills, and have met people that are not big titles, but they are great leaders. Like, they lead from the back, and they just get things done. They influence. So I really wanted to just dive a little bit and talk about leadership. And I think we've all worked in the professional sphere, and I don't know if you have ever worked for yourself, but I think some of us have worked for ourselves and worked for others, and we've experienced great leaders, toxic leaders, we'll just say leaders. So I'm gonna start with you, Giselle.
Yes.
There's only 3, you guys. So chances are,
You go first.
chances are you're gonna be called. But what would you say are some of the most significant qualities of an effective leader?
Of an effective leader. So I'm going to branch off into 2 things, because as you were speaking, Valerie came to mind. Valerie Zolezzi. She has currently a thing about she's nominating leaders, or she has been, and now she's going to give out some awards for leadership. And the way she did it was really fascinating to me, and I really appreciated it. She put out a survey and asked folks, what are some traits that you think leaders should have? A great leader. She didn't say effective, she just said, what's a good leader to you? And it came down to empathy and courage, I believe, are the 2. And so now that she has that from the data she collected, she's now saying, hey, do you know who's a courageous leader? Do you know an empathetic leader? And people have been submitting nominations. And so she came to mind. I want to shout her out because I think that was such a beautiful way of involving community and other folks to think about what a leader really is. She wasn't asking about titles. I also am the same. I don't think titles automatically mean leader. You know, I know a lot of folks that I've had on my teams and I have worked with, and they are by far better leaders than I've seen with big titles, inherently. So that's the first piece. The second piece is that I think that leaders should have those two qualities, empathy and courage. But there are other things. So over the course of the last year, I've been in this master's program, which has been eye-opening and exhausting. But through that, I've actually learned what kind of leader I am, which was really, again, just gaining more self-awareness, because when you start to look at other leadership, you start to realize that there's a clash and you don't understand why, right? Like, I'm trying to do something good, you want to do something good, why can't we work together? And it, right? And it's so frustrating to say, like, why can't we just do this for the purpose of the greater good? Why is that not on the table?
Yeah.
And so through this process, so many of us in my cohort had learned that we were all different kinds of leaders. Few of us, which I thought was really interesting, the BIPOC folks in the group, in the cohort, were automatic servant leaders. For one, I don't like the word servant, so let's be clear. But that meant that we were putting the needs of others ahead of our own. And when we did this kind of journey, we did like this life journey, we realized that we were doing that because we were raised in a space that provided that context for us, right? So for my journey, it was like, you know, being with my abuela constantly and being involved in like her, you know, good community things and through the church and being out and giving clothes and feeding, you know, folks that didn't have anything or whatever the case may be. That's how I was raised. And that has created a very deep moral compass of how I navigate now, even at my age of 41. I still navigate in that format that I am here to serve others. And so I thought it was fascinating that so many of the BIPOC folks in the room were all servant leaders. And when you heard their story, they would say, oh, I used to do this when I was younger, and I've never strayed away. I just thought that's how it was supposed to be. Then there were others that were, not that they were bad leaders, none of this is bad in context, but they were more of an authority figure. And that happened to be some of the white folks in the room. And again, that led to, well, I've always managed a team, I've always done this, and it kind of put them ahead of other folks. And so their vision and their perspective was, to be a good leader, you have to be ahead, you have to lead, you have to do this. Whereas through that process, we started to realize, where do we really fit in the spectrum of leadership? And it started to come around that it was kind of revealing on its own that this is why we have so much clash. So leaders are not getting along, not in the sense that they're not getting along, but it's just that their styles are so different because their purpose is different, right? What they vision is different. And so when I look at so many leaders in our community, I'm like blown away by them, because I'm like, I'm like, oh, you're a servant leader. Oh, you're this, you're that. Or like, I can see it, you know, like I can see it now. But then it's helpful information, because you take that internally and you say, oh, with this person, I have to navigate differently, right? In our role right now at the WCAC, we're talking a lot of things about changing shifts and narratives and all that stuff. But what we're really saying is, how do we appeal to the folks that don't get it? How do we appeal to these leaders that don't see anti-poverty as something that's vital and important? The way we do is we talk about money. That's what they like to talk about. That's their space. Doesn't make them a bad leader. It just means that they're more about the bottom line. They want to be cost effective, and that's okay. So let's approach that through that lens, because so many of us there are servant leaders. So that's kind of like my take.
That's powerful.
That's deep. I love when you go to spaces and you hear things, right? And it forces you to examine like your thought process and, you know, where you are, because I think everyone wants to be like, you know, oh, I'm a servant leader and what that means, but you said they were behind because they're servant leaders. And I mean, I don't think so. In terms of leadership, like you have servant leaders and you have transformative leaders and you have leaders that are different, and like it's just different leadership style. But I haven't thought of it like the reason why me and some of my previous supervisors don't probably didn't, work well together because we have different leadership style. Because I'm off the mindset like we all rise up, and they're like, no, let's pick out the star and let's highlight that. But we know that like you can't build an organization, you can't build a team with one person.
Correct.
Like.
And that means everyone, right?
Like
so
everybody.
that means folks that
Every
don't
single
have
person,
senior management team
every
titles.
single
That means
person.
everyone down to the very staff members. I think of people at the front door, the faces of
Absolutely.
organizations. Those people are incredibly powerful, and they're leaders because they are the first faces you see. They're the ones that really show you the way for clients to open that door and say, wow, what an experience I had here, right? That's leadership, when you're able to kind of move someone in a space and allow them to navigate differently. It's not about how do I get ahead, and I think that's what we think of when we think of leadership. We think of like this really solopreneur kind of like, oh, I'm doing it, and it's not that. You got to do it with everybody, and that means literally down to the last person who's an intern. Their voice matters, and when you bring them in, it just uplifts everyone.
No, absolutely. So I worked in retail for a very long time, and I don't know if any of you guys ever shopped at TJ Maxx, right?
Never been.
Never been. That's my home away from home. And but like, so I was a leader in retail for a very long time, and I've always found fascinating, like, folks are really rude to retail workers, and they assume that they're not smart, and and they'll come in and they'll talk down to us and things like that. And oftentimes they were very rude to the cashiers, and I'm always saying to them, guys, the cashier is the most important person. I remember we were getting a visit from like the board of directors and all these people, and everybody was like going crazy. And I had this supervisor or this sales lead, and it just was not very nice to a cashier because like they were freaking out because like the board of directors are coming. And I say, okay, so picture TJ Maxx in the middle of the afternoon and hundreds of people in TJ Maxx, right? And we have a line going, and the CEO walks in, and there's a cashier. Who do you think the people care about more? Like, they're in line for over an hour waiting. The CEO, I'm pretty sure he was listed in the Worcester Business Journal as the highest paid executive in Mass. Trust me, he's not ringing a register. So it's like, yeah, you're like, oh my God, I'm meeting the CEO. But no, if you're in that store, you're hours deep in that line, you don't care about the CEO. You care about that cashier, because that cashier is going to be the person that gets you out the door. And I think oftentimes we treat folks based on titles, and we assume that, okay, this person with the highest title is the most important person in the room. So
I have something to say.
go on.
There is a,
And I didn't
I'm
ask her.
sorry. I mean, I think that this conversation is really important because there is a very, very big gap in terms of the education that folks received from high school to college, where everybody thinks that it's a fight of power, right? Leadership is not talked about. What is talked about is, are you in a position of power to make decisions and to make more money? That's what everyone is interested on, right? But no one talks about what do you need to do to actually get there. I'm in that frame of, I'm in that borderline of like servant leader and like a very tactical one, right? But anyone can be a leader. Like I tell my staff all the time, like, any of you don't need my yes to take an initiative. Like, just if you know it's the right thing,
Do it.
take the lead and do it. And I think a lot of the workforce, right, which is all of us, is not thought to be proactive when it comes to taking a leadership or a leadership role or a leadership step without being compensated for it. And that's the problem. We associate leadership with compensation, hence we don't encourage people to be leaders within an organization. And that's, I think that's the biggest error that we have made as a society. Because believe me, I will be happy not having to make all the decisions that I made on a single day. And that doesn't mean that because I said yes or no, that I am the best leader of the organization. I might have a receptionist that might be a better leader than me because she understands the ins and outs of every client that comes to the office, right? So we got to give people the power to understand that leadership, becoming a leader, understanding what type of leader you are has nothing to do with a title, compensation, or anything around it. You just have to be. And when you decide to do that, then everything else will come.
I think so. But I also think, sadly, the folks that need to hear that the most are the ones that are not going to hear it. Because I do agree that, you know, leadership in terms of, right, we tie it with compensation or, you know, the mentality, what's in it for me? Like, if I do this, then, you know, what do I get? Like, if I take the initiative and do this, like, what do I get? And then also, a lot of times leaders don't empower their employees to make those decisions because they live in a state of constant fear. But I do believe as the leader, it is your responsibility. Like 100%. The bus stops with you, right? 100%. It is on you to learn like how your employees work and make sure they feel safe enough to like, hey, Monica's not here today. I need to make a decision for this client. Like, let me make this decision for this client instead of freaking out like I'm going to lose my job. Because I always say, like, if you're not giving away the store, like, do what you have to do for the client, right?
And it's important to establish and let them understand. I've always, I mean, I went through that process about 8 years ago, give it a take. And it was so hard for me when I said for the first time, I work for you, you don't work for me. And since I understood what type of leader I wanted to be, I always tell everybody, I work for you, you don't work for me. And that encourages people to actually, you know, talk more, be more open, take those steps, right? So you're absolutely right when you said that we have to take that first step, but also we also need to put it out there that we need more of that in schools. We need more of that in our community. We need to talk more about it because the reality is that when we get, you know, I have a 14-year-old and all her friends are older and they're super excited to get, you know, jobs on the retail side, you know, did the now in September. And what they're more fearful about is the person that's going to be managing me going to like me and I'm going to keep this job. They don't think about anything else of like, how am I going to grow on that job? Like what is going to take for, you know, none of that. It's capped to, you got a job, you got to please the other person. And
I don't disagree with that at all. I think that's like right on the money. I do think it goes back to education, but I also think it goes even deeper than education. When we talk about BIPOC folks, we haven't served as leaders for a very long time. We haven't been in spaces, in boardrooms, in CEO positions, in the C-suite, all those leadership positions that are glamorized by television, movies, books, all the things that we're told and preconditioned to. We haven't really been in those spaces in this country, right? So for us to then kind of hear these things, it's almost like, that's a joke, that's not real, right? Like they're not thinking that way because they've been preconditioned to believe that they would not be in those spaces. And that goes to why representation is so incredibly important, because once we are able to see ourselves, now we can educate folks and say, look at them, look at what they're doing, look at how they're navigating. And so that also comes from just our society as a whole, our society that's individualistic, it's capitalistic, it puts people down. And that's the very premise of our society. And so when we're talking from the ground up, we're already like trying to dig ourselves out, right? It takes us to get to a master's course to realize, oh, that's the kind of leader I am, right? Like these are things, to Monica's point, is that we should be teaching this from a very early age, because that's how we retrain the mind to understand what it is that we foresee for ourselves and how valuable we are. But we can't do that when we have an education system that's failing. We have a society that tells us that we're illegal. We have capitalism profit over people,
Mhm.
how could we possibly take on the task of telling people you belong here when everything around them's telling them they don't?
Okay. All right. Well, so both you and Jennifer are in the educational space, and now you
Emma?
guys.
Sorry, I opened that can of
That
worms.
you can open that can of worms, and
Sorry.
we talk about like our youths not getting that education, right, to see themselves in the C-suite. So now you guys are in that space where you have some influence over educated the youth. So what kind of strategies are you guys going to employ to ensure that the youths that you touch see themselves in the leadership role, whether they have the title or not? Monica, push that.
I think it has a lot to do with culture. I think that something that you said, Giselle, made me think about how, in comparison to where we are as a society outwardly, the rhetoric of who gets to be a leader there may be inequities there, but I think in my own cultural and faith circles, that's always been a thing. I have always been raised to know that I am a leader and I can be a leader, and I was raised with the understanding that not everyone would associate me with that. So I think it's less about teaching kids that they can and should be leaders, because I think that work is already happening. We're just not seeing it because they're not being highlighted and lifted up publicly, right? In like more broad audiences. But I think really it's about how do leaders of color and women who are leading, how are we being intentional about highlighting and spotlighting youth that are already doing the work, whether it be activism, whether it be in their community. We are at Worcester Education Collaborative, we're part of a collaboration with UMass Medical where we're doing youth participatory action research. And one of the things that we talked about when we're looking at participants applying for the research program is reframing the questions from, for example, do you hold a leadership position in your school? Reframing that to be, have you had the opportunity to help take care of younger siblings? Have you had the opportunity to volunteer in your church, temple, mosque, faith community? So then, rather than putting the title of leadership on what the culturally normed things are in our society, we're now letting the youth think about, oh, I am a leader because I've done this, XYZ in my community and in my family. And so I think it's really about how we're defining leadership, what that looks like, and then how to allow you to utilize those skills from their context and apply them to, everyday, more public, kind of more typical ways that we consider leadership to be.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I think you guys had enough of me, but I will say that I love that because language, I think it's time, is what I'm being told.
But we can still.
We should go. We should wrap it up.
We're still we can wrap it up after this question. Yeah.
Then we have live questions.
So I think that's a really good and important thing is that you touched on is rearranging the language that we use. Language is vitally important in all spaces that we walk into and wherever we carry ourselves because how we speak is how we navigate, right? So what's a leadership position? You're already asking these kids, what have you done at the top? It's like, no, that's the right way to ask. Have you taken care of other folks? That's leadership. So breaking that down, I think, is vitally important. But also ensuring that I think sometimes, I'm caught in the middle of this, I'm very much of meet people where they are, but also give them more, right? Because I think sometimes when we're meeting people where they are, we're limiting what they can do. And so I think that oftentimes and over the last 4 weeks, to be honest, and Sean left already, but Sean is sick of me at Quinn Sigmund. Can I just tell you, because I have called Sean so many times to say, hey, I have another one.
Yeah.
Hey, I have another one.
Yeah.
I have found so many folks, just available staffers at WCAC that are brilliant. Like they're speaking to me and I'm like, Why
Love
haven't
it.
you been in school?
Love
Oh,
it.
I don't know. I'm like, it's free. Quincy is free. Apply now, right? So these are the ways I think that all of us can partake in uplifting other folks and creating that space is
Mhm.
by what are the barriers that exist, and if
Mhm.
we have some experience or know someone that has experience to eliminate those barriers, then we should be doing that work selflessly to say this is about this person, this is transformational for this person, right? And so for us, even at WCAC, we are creating pathways through college pathways and career pathways in spaces and industries that are often underserved by folks, because to Monica's point, the education is not really there. And that allows us to remove the barriers and say, you can be anything. And if they don't hear it at home, luckily you were blessed, I was blessed, probably blessed because we're strong individuals that probably came from homes that said we can do anything. Not everybody comes from that.
Yeah.
So when you hear it at home, you hear it outside, how could you possibly find your grounding? So we want to make sure that we just show up for people and tell them that I'm proud of you and you can do that.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. So my lovely timekeepers told me like we've got to wrap
This
up
has been great,
section.
everyone.
Like, so we're gonna move to the audience participation,
Lord.
like mid Q&A. But I do want to give you guys an opportunity to just wrap up this section. So just short question, this one, and I see I had more, but I'm just gonna ask a very short question. So what advice would you give to someone who's looking to develop their leadership skill? Could be deep, could be short.
Me first.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's just understanding what you're comfortable and not comfortable with. Some people, it's, they really understand that they're more of a contributor role rather than a leadership role, right? And understanding you and what you can give doesn't make you less leader, but it's really going to help you give your best. So understand what your giving your best means, and then decide, do I have the power, or do I want to obtain the tools to become a leader on these that I think I can do.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Giselle.
I would say that really quick, I think that being a leader outside of the workplace is more valuable than being a leader in the workplace, and there's a greater impact there. So I would encourage everyone to find an initiative in their community or whatever space they're comfortable and take that on, because I think they'll get way more reward and the community will be valued.
All right. Awesome.
I would say giving yourself opportunity and space to be uncomfortable and to be flexible, because the more things that you try on or try out that you're not comfortable with, the more equipped you'll be to see things from a more broad perspective, and that's what leaders do. They kind of manage systems from a broader space than from this one narrow area of expertise.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate you guys answering those questions, but I want to give the audience an opportunity. Welcome. Thank you all for coming and attending. So you guys are welcome to ask a question. You could ask of the broader panel, or you could certainly ask, select them individually. You're welcome to come up if you want to be on camera, or you can be there, but you just have to speak loudly.
Oh boy, you're really pushing it.
Sylvia, Carla, you coming up?
Oh. I have a mic here if anybody wants it.
Oh, yeah. We can.
All right.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
What about individuals that say they're leaders, they receive awards, they're well known in the community, but behind closed doors, all they do is talk negatively about others or put others down, and they're very intentional about it. Like, how do you navigate something like that, especially if others are coming to you saying, hey, so-and-so is doing this, so-and-so is doing that, but they're not willing to come with you to be like, hey, what's going on? Why did you say this to this one? Like, what, you're supposed to be a leader that I look up to, but yet you're bad mouthing. And this is just general.
I mean, say their name. I mean, that sounds personal. We're live, say their name.
Giselle, you wanna take
Monica?
it?
Jennifer, would you like that one?
I'm still processing the question.
And she laughs.
Okay. You want to answer
Go
that?
ahead, Monica. Go ahead, go
Okay,
ahead.
I'll go and answer that. You know, we have a specific people, especially in this community of Worcester, that definitely do that. I left boards because of that. And I think what needs to happen is it starts with you, right? You can't compromise your ethics because of those people. And eventually, you know, the mighty will fall. That's just what happens, right? I always say that the righteous heart will always win, no matter the journey. And sometimes we have to experience those things in order to understand who do you want to become and by who you want to be surrounded. So I see it more as an opportunity rather than taking it negatively, because you will have the chance to confront that person at the right time, but don't push yourself for that time. I think there is always an opportunity that will present, that will give you the grace to say your piece in a very professional way without harming yourself in the process. So me, Monica, I always take the stand of I prefer to be quiet. I don't waste my time or energy with those people. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve any of me. And like I said earlier, retreat, right? Retreat. It is, that's just me and my opinion. They might have others, but I prefer to retreat. Does it eat you inside? Yeah. You know the reality of it? Yes. Others will too at their time, but it's not your place either, I think, in my opinion, to take a stand about showing that face. They're gonna do it themselves.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
sorry, I tried to save you
I
from
know.
that.
No, I think that's really good advice, right? I think that oftentimes we see those folks, and I think it comes from a place of insecurity, and they're going through their own thing, and that's 100% good advice, is to retreat. I would leave it alone. I often, if they're not coming to me, I don't really, doesn't phase me, it shouldn't phase me. And we don't even know if it's true or not, right? It's coming secondhand, it's not even primary source. I wouldn't pay too much attention to it. What I will say is that oftentimes when you are doing good work, that's when you get the people that have something to say. Because no one seems to be complaining about some folks that are doing harm. No one's talking behind them, and no one's doing any of that. But folks that are showing up in community and doing the work that they're supposed to do and just thriving, it often comes with the territory. So I wouldn't pay too much mind to it. I would take it as a compliment.
Jennifer.
I'm new to
Oh, you got
Worcester.
two mics.
I'm new to Worcester. I don't know.
You okay?
I agree.
She's new to Worcester, so we're gonna move to the next question. Thank you.
Okay. So as I look at all three women up here, they're amazing women. How do you, because you're looked up to by so many, how do you keep it separate when it comes to your personal feelings versus your professional feelings? What do you use to maintain that fine line, right? Because it's a very fine line. But you know that in the community you looked up to, and you have women, sort of like what they were just saying, like what Carla asked. But how do you keep that professional separate from your personal? What are
The most unpopular opinion I'm going to give you right now is
Okay.
that I don't separate. How I show up in community, how I show up at home, how I show up in the boardroom, how I show up at work, they're all the same Giselle. I don't water it down. I've had to do that over the last 4 or 5 years because of my job, which you know what it was. I unfortunately was muffled, and that didn't sit well with me. And so that was why, even though I loved the work, I had to leave because it was harming me and like my personal moral stance of, I think we should be showing up authentically. And so if we are speaking, and I say this because we have a community of like really involved people. And I think that's such a blessing that so many other places don't have. So when we muffle voices, we're doing ourselves harm, right? So when I see faces that show up to do public commentary at the city council, and they are, you know, folks that are business owners and they're valued in community, they're chancellors and they're this, I think that speaks volumes because that shows you where they stand morally, but also how they navigate in the workplace. We do a lot of, how do we severance ourselves, right? Like, it's kind of like the work-life balance. There really isn't one, right? It's invisible. It's made up for us to try to hope and achieve something that doesn't exist. This is kind of very similar for me. And that's my personal stance, is that it hurts me personally when I have to be muzzled. And that doesn't work for me. I need to show up the way I show up, and the things that I care about in community, in my personal life, and in the workspace are all the same.
So you're saying that, to add to that, if someone you've had this relationship with, you're working, doing all great things, and that's severed, and that person continues to be doing good in the community and all of that, but you had a bad experience, you don't separate that, you just bring it with you?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we can separate, and Jennifer talked about that, right? So like that person who, let's say, is doing good in community, that might be a byproduct of their role. It might be a requirement, right? But if they're causing harm to folks that are the closest to them, I don't see that that's truly who they are. I see that as like a facade. It's a mask that they're wearing to show outwardly, this is what I want you to believe in. So in business, right, we have brand perception, and then we actually have perception. The brand perception is what you put out. And so if you want me to say, oh, look at me, I'm doing great in community, yada, 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 but then I turn around, let's say this is my teammate, and I make them feel horrible, and I do the opposite of what I'm saying publicly, that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge problem. And so I think that when people navigate that way, they're telling on themselves. Because if so many people start to say, I had a bad experience with Giselle, oh, I had a bad, and it's like, maybe there's some value there, right? If people are consistently saying these things, there might be some value there of like, maybe we should look into it. I'm not saying there's always fault, but it's very hard to separate those things when the person has caused a lot of harm internally, but public facing, they're like perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you.
But also drop names, feel free.
No.
So let me know who you're talking about.
Thank you.
So,
All right, thank
one
you.
more question.
Okay.
So like, let's say if you're close friends with someone and you decide to be on a board together, and they kind of maybe have their own reasonings, and we, I guess, don't click on the same matters, and they're like, how dare you? But you're my friend. Like, you're supposed to like be there. And I was like, we have different views, you know, and that happens. But I just wanted to get your perspective on that. And should friendships be able to manage that? Like, you know, work is different than our friendship, and let's not intertwine, or no. So it's, okay, I just wanted to make sure you felt the same. Okay.
No, if that person's doing that to you, they're not your friend, right? They're looking at you and they're saying that you are to blindly follow me. And I don't think that's someone that actually cares about you.
Okay.
Friendship is not a dictatorship.
Correct.
You know, as an individual, and I think I have a little bit of a different opinion than Giselle. You know, she says, you know, one all of the same. I have different opinions based on the hat that I wear. I'm gonna have a different opinion of whatever you're doing as your friend, as a business person, as a community like individual. I will have like 5 different opinions of the same thing, right? But then
the maturity comes of, on a personal level, can we sit down and talk about it without letting those different hats become in the middle of it? And I need you to respect those different opinions based on the hat that I'm wearing at that moment in time, right? So me as a person, that never changes, right? We show up as an individual authentically everywhere we go. But depending on how that affects the moral compass that Giselle said, based on the seat that I am, in right now, I'm gonna have a different opinion about it. If let's say that we're talking about education here. If I'm going to a meeting and I'm going there as a mom, I'm gonna have a very different opinion if I'm sitting there as an investor or as a community business owner, right? Because they might want to implement something next to my business that is not good for me, but I love it because it's gonna help the community, but I don't want it next to me. Make sense? So we gotta be mature enough to understand what hat am I wearing, when am I wearing it, and at a personal level, can we sit down and have that conversation without that letting affect us? Make sense?
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Faith, and my question is open to whoever on the
You're tapped out.
Oh gosh. So I am a mom of teenagers, soon to be young adults, and I try to be active and very involved in the community.
Yeah.
I work with youth and women. So my question is, speaking from experience as a mom who is trying to have her kids be involved in the community and serve and get into leadership, and also who works with youth and women, trying to get them into those spaces, but the feedback I get is it's too much. There is a lot of confrontation, a lot of clashing, a lot of backlash, and things like that. So how do I encourage my kids, the youth I work with, the women, to rise up to the occasion? Because we are older. I work with youth that I would like to see grow up and take these spaces. When we are not here, they will be here. They need to rise up to the occasion. They have to be in leadership. They have to be serving, get involved in the community, love it. So how do I encourage them to look beyond the negativity, the clashing, the bickering? Because those things, they happen. They are real. They're all around us. You really want to serve, but there are things around you that are holding you back.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer. I think that what you've said, you've already said it, that those things are going to happen. I also think that it's important to recognize that youth that are growing up in this era are dealing with things that our parents and grandparents have never even imagined we would have to deal with. And I mean, I can give an example. An older woman in my personal life, we were talking one time during the pandemic, and I just happened to go through a really serious health scare during that time. And she called me, and this is an older woman who I consider very wise. I've always looked up to her, and she said, "I'm so I marvel at you and your generation and how you're going to be able to raise kids. We've never had to deal with anything like this." And remember, this was 2020 when we were all in shock. And so I think anyone who is a parent and or who was born and raised in that time, just by virtue of what was happening at that time, it kind of reset life and society as we know it. So I would say grace for this generation of young people that we're looking to kind of train and support into leadership, because you and I being supported into leadership looks different than what the kind of support that they're going to need. I also think that being realistic and reasonable with what levels and what kinds of leadership that kids at certain ages are prepared and ready to do. I will say that for me, even though, so there's good and bad to everything, right? While I mentioned earlier that I was always told that I was a leader and I always knew that I was going to do something, I guess, influential, for lack of a better word, I also think that I also experienced harm as a young child, being expected to take on too much burden of the community and the plight of Black folks at like 12, you know? It's a lot, like it's a lot. And I think that unless we are going to pair the opportunities for leadership, especially for Black kids, unless we're going to pair that with trauma-informed clinical support, mental health coaching and counseling, and a deep understanding of the history and what it means to be a Black leader in this time, then we need to be mindful of what we're expecting from them. And it's more complex than what I can say now, but that's just my 2 cents on it. I think it's great that they're being encouraged to be leaders, and I think it's okay to acknowledge that being a young person right now and considering leadership or what that means to be like in this environment, that's a lot to ask of a young person right now, I think.
All right. Thank you so much. You have one question? All right, so we'll take the final question and then we will have to wrap it up. I know you guys love all these questions. And, so thank you so much. So final question.
We're gonna be here till 10, guys.
Yeah, right.
Bring it. Bring
It's
it.
sunshine outside.
And I really enjoyed the panel. This was so good. I think when we talk about intentionality, we talked about things you would choose to do on your own. But something I was wondering about was maybe something hard for you to intentionally choose not to do, or something that you had to intentionally change in order to become the person that you are today. And I think that more so stems from when we discussed briefly about self-awareness and just understanding how your actions affect other people and how it affects your spaces. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that. Thank you.
All right. Anyone in particular or
Oh,
any
no,
one of them?
feel free. It's a free for all.
All right.
Good talking, Jennifer. Good.
You've been nominated.
Something that I had to be intentional to not do as a leader.
To give up, or something that you had to be maybe self-aware about, that you knew if you needed to let this go.
Yeah.
To be the person you are today.
Okay, yeah. I think so. For me, my perception of power and privilege, I don't think I had to completely let it go, but I had to look at it from a different lens. And I'll try to be brief with this, but as a Black woman, when I come into a space, I think there are assumptions about what my beliefs, politics, whatever opinions are. And as a leader, I had mentioned earlier about being mindful of not just being expert in this one narrow area, but really being able to understand multiple aspects of a system in order to lead the system. That's something that I've had to do, is being able to learn more about conflict resolution, interpersonal relationships, when a conflict is perceived as racialized versus when it's literally just a conflict between two humans that happen to be different races or different ethnicities or different identities. And so I think in my lived experience, it has been so comfortable to just tie everything to this one perception of power, privilege, but as a leader, I have to now think education is not just a Black people, white people thing. It's an everyone thing. It's an communal thing. And so how can I step back from this one thing that I've lived and really start to understand how different groups of people and different political perspectives make the world go around to then impact change. And to Giselle's point about people whose priority is the bottom line, how to appeal to multiple audiences and still be true to myself and who I am and what I stand for. So I had to let go of like the narrow things that I've like kind of been tied to just by virtue of my lived experience.
All right, awesome. All right, thank you very much. Audience, thank you all so much for attending. Thank you. Great job for participating. So Jennifer, Giselle, and Monica, and I know I joked earlier, I asked them and, they said yes. But one of the...
Well, you did.
She forced us.
I told them, and they said yes. But, I think it speaks to the level of trust and friendship that we have with each other, that I think they know that I would never invite them into a space where it wouldn't be safe for them to express their thoughts, and they wouldn't be able to show up as who they fully are. Because I think that is something that I'm always mindful of, is like, you have to show up as you are, right? I think everyone deserves that, right? So I'm very grateful that you guys, said yes. And, it wasn't, it's like, oh, if you go on this, it's going to give you popularity or visibility or all of that. You guys all have that. I'm sorry. Is that what you thought?
You don't want it.
Like, you don't want it now? No, it's just, I truly believe that conversations need to be had. And I think that we seek external spaces, right? To hear things and to hear brilliant thoughts. And, we'll go to a conference in New York, and I will continue to. But, there are brilliant people around us that we can hear from and we could learn from. And I think, we don't always have to go far. Like, there are phenomenal women here, phenomenal women in the audience, and I'm always just mindful and grateful when I have the opportunity to give you guys the platform so others could hear you, and through listening to you guys, learn something about themselves, right? Inspire them to show up as themselves, to be self-aware, to be vulnerable, to seek out answers, and get connected. So I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds to just give your final thoughts, and then we're going to end it. So Jennifer.
Thanks everyone for having me. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here. I hope we can keep in touch and continue this great conversation.
All right, thank you.
I second all of that. I'm always grateful to be in whatever space invites me. I always try to hand it off to someone else I know, but it doesn't always work out. But thank you for always being here, Suzanne, always creating a space for folks to come and listen. And I 100% agree with you. We have a lot of brilliant minds in our community, and we need to really look into each other quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us. I echo everything that they have said. I also think it's extremely important for people to understand that these spaces are created so difference of opinion is valued. And yes, there is many brilliant, outgoing people and introverts as well that have a lot to teach us.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we might play a role. We might play a more active role in our communities, but also we learn. And I think I don't want to speak for Giselle and Jennifer, but I do believe it's true for the three of us that we learn more from the community than we probably teach them by having these conversations. So thank you for having us here.
Well, thank you all. I absolutely believe that you guys are brilliant. Thank you guys for coming, for sharing. And, I could just end with this. I think that it's important that we always seek knowledge. I think it's important that we have an open mind. I think that, yes, our values are important. Our morals are important. But we also have to be mindful of, what the difference is, between values and morals. I think faith. Faith is different from your values anymore. Right? I'm a person of faith. I believe in God, but I have friends that do not believe in God, or they serve a different God. And I think to be respectful, to say they don't have to serve the same God that I do. And I think that we just have to be respectful of someone. But I don't know the James Baldwin quote, but it's we can disagree. I do love quotes. I don't know them all, but we can disagree, but as long as the disagreement doesn't cause harm, exactly, impact my life, or things like that. So live, love, learn. All right. Thank you all so much, and have a great day. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Look at it. Listen. Okay. We're 5 minutes over.
I'm fine.
Are we still live?